This is Mike. In this video I want to go over the event closeout process. So each territory is going to do this a little bit differently, but I can tell you that the way that the system was designed is as follows. You want to make sure that when you're closing out the event, the first thing I look for is that the correct owner is associated with the event, and the historical events have the problem of they basically all say roll call. And so when you're closing out an event that happened like a year ago or two, you want to go and make sure that the owner is set correctly if that person is still a user. The next thing we want to double check is that the proper zip code is in the location field. The rest of it is kind of a bonus, but the zip code is very important because we want to be able to plot those on a map over time so we can see where we did all the various events. So the zip code is going to come in handy for that. We also want the metro region and territory to be populated, but they happen automatically whenever you have the zip code in there, so that's fine. The next thing you want to look at is the event type and subtype. Make sure that they are accurate because we've made changes over time. And for example, we got rid of projects out of here. This used to have an option for projects, and instead we made it its own actual type. And so old events might still say member engagement projects, and then you'd want to change that to say project instead, and then pick from the new project subtypes, which are community preparedness, individual assistance, or mitigation recovery response. So we'll select one of those. If you do a project, then you also have a text field that you can do a related incident if this was secondary to like some kind of operation, for example. The other thing you want to look at is make sure that the proper event hours are allocated. And in this case, 2 hours is probably not enough time for something that went from 8 to 5. So we'll change that to 9 instead. And then probably the last and most important thing is that the registration and attendance is accurate. And so you would go down to the registrations, and when it's in editable grid mode like this, then you have a couple different options. My recommendation is that you have somebody at the actual event checking people off whenever they arrive. And so as people walk in, you can just change these to show that they attended. And if someone doesn't show up, you can show them as a no-show. And that's just to basically like properly account for the attendance. If this was a national training or a regional training and you have some kind of a test or assessment or some kind of thing that you have to do at the end, then you also want to make sure that the results are in there, because the results will oftentimes drive whether or not someone gets like an associated qualification, for example. So you want to make sure that the status and the results are both in there. You can do this in bulk if you go into the advanced grid. And I didn't save it, so that's why this stuff didn't change just now. So watch out for that too. There's a little save button if you make some changes, but I didn't do it. Whenever you are in the associated view like this, you can also use the bulk edit. And so if I select all, you get an edit option. And let's say everybody on the event showed up. So you can basically change everybody at the same time to attended and passed. And we can also update everyone's event hours because that changed. And whoever you have selected here will get those changes done to them. So if you have a few people that didn't show up, then you can basically like go through and edit those to show no-shows. And of course we can still fix these as well. So I'll hit save here. The last step is, once everything looks right here, somebody has to change this to completed, and not everybody has the ability to do that. Basically, if you are an event approver, you have the ability to do that. If you are an instructor or an event lead, or really any other role, you probably do not have the ability to change this, and that's just based on different levels of security. So the event approvers are able to mark complete, or they can publish, for example, or they can set it back to approved if they want for a while, if they want to take it off the calendar. So not everybody's going to be able to set these to completed. And so if you happen to be like an instructor or an event lead, then you're going to want to make sure that you tell whoever the approver was On my test event here, I don't think I actually have an approver. But let's say this had gone through the system correctly. Larissa would have been the last approver. So you could just send Larissa a note or Rebecca a note to say, hey, this one looks good, go ahead and mark it complete. And they'll come in and double check everything and then mark it complete and save it. And that's it.